Interfaith Amigos were brought together by the tragedies of 9/11. They had no plan. They simply came together to support one another through those difficult times.
In a culture where that was unusual. And I remember
that says when there is chronic anger, fear, helplessness, hopelessness, it's not that the eyes become blind.
Understand how that feels, and to, with my colleagues, work toward better understanding.
Listen, respect, connect. The idea all three of us in our traditions have so many beautiful, timeless, placeless, wise insights. So why do you have so much problem? Why is it a problem today? Because the problem is that to live them is so very inconvenient. Now, each of our traditions have wonderful teachings that overlap. But each tradition has a particular, shall I say, core teaching that is very special. Let's go over them one by one.
we have to go one by one because we have one microphone. And as the understanding of that one evolves, it becomes clear that there is an ethic involved. It becomes clear that to cause harm to any other being is to cause harm to us all. And to support another being is to support ourselves and to support all being. And so it gets called ethical monotheism. It gets called realization of oneness that demands ethical action in the world. We believe that the core teaching in Judaism is the evolving awakening to the reality of one.
Thanks, Brother Ted. I can't. It's all in the choreography. It's important to point out, I think, that Jesus' ministry was framed by what you just heard from Rabbi Ted. Jesus was not a Christian. He was a Jew and a rabbi, a teacher and a healer. And the concept of oneness, we are all part of the one, was the absolute substance of Jesus' ministry. But we point out that we feel the core teaching of Christianity is unconditional love. Now we should say too that the core teachings of each of our traditions exist in each of our traditions, all three of them. But there's an emphasis on oneness in Judaism and on unconditional love in Christianity. Now unconditional love falls right off the tongue as if it's ordinary. But just think about loving someone without conditions. We fall in love because of conditions. And we don't just say, well, we're going to stop loving because of conditions. That's one of the things that makes it so difficult. And it requires a change in spiritual consciousness to begin to do something as important as loving without conditions. Because at the heart of that is forgiveness. The story of the prodigal son in Christianity is one of the best illustrations from Jesus that I know about. Most of you probably know that story, but in a nutshell, there are two sons of a farmer. The younger one wants his inheritance. He takes it to a distant country, which is a metaphor for a place of estrangement. He wastes his money. He comes to his senses and says, if I don't go home and get a job on the farm, I'm going to starve to death. And so he goes home with the expectation, I think, that he'll be punished and he might get a job. But what happens? His father runs out and greets him with open arms and says, this my son was dead and now is alive, was lost and now is found. Let's have a party. And the last sentence of that particular part of the text says, and they began to celebrate. So loving without conditions. The word grace in English may come as close as anything in the Christian tradition, but it still doesn't make us think suddenly of loving without conditions. So that's one of the challenges. Loving without conditions, unconditional love in Christianity.
Thank you, Brother Don. And in Islam, we believe that the core teaching is compassion. You know, each of the, or 113 of the 114 chapters of the Quran, each one of them starts with this invocation called the Basmallah. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, meaning in the name of God, who is boundlessly compassionate, infinitely merciful. There's a very famous story of a Bedouin who went to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and said, "O sweet Muhammad, please tell me, how can I have the Basmallah be bestowed upon me? What is the secret?" And Prophet Muhammad famously said, "This is the secret. Be compassionate with yourself and be compassionate with others." So in Islam, as also other traditions, spiritual teachers, they really want us to understand the power, the beauty, the majesty of this divine vibration, divine quality called compassion. How do they explain that? Usually through a metaphor in nature, water. There is nothing as soft and yielding as water is, yet for overcoming the hardest, the most insurmountable, nothing is as powerful as water is. Meaning, the person who is compassionate, gentle, merciful, kind, is possessed of authentic strength. Then, as the Quran suggests, as do other books, that wherever water falls, life flourishes. Meaning not only authentic strength, but the person who is kind and compassionate is also life bestowing, life affirming. Being a Bengali, I love this wonderful Bengali poet named Tagore. Anybody heard of Tagore? He was the first Asian to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. He has this one line, if I remember. He says, "Not hammer strokes, but the gentle dance of the water sings the pebbles into perfection."
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. La ilaha illallahu. La ilaha illallahu. Adonai hu ha-Elohim hu. Adonai hu ha-Elohim hu. It's all one and I am as I am. It's all one and I am as I am.
Thank you.